Hey guys, Sneaky Snake here, Brothers in Arms, World of Warships, and in today's video, we're going to take a look at our next match analysis replay. And this one features GB of the EU clan P Navy playing in the Iowa, the Tier 9 American battleship. He's playing by himself, and it's some domination here on the map Trap. So usually Saturdays are the community replays, so I guess technically this is a community replay, just obviously under the match analysis playlist. And obviously with these replays, I try to be a bit more critical and analytical when looking over somebody's replay to not only help them improve, but also to point out the good and the what I consider not so good plays, because for you guys to get better, you have to be able to analyze your replays and take a look at what you're doing and then go from there. So hopefully, GB, when you watch this replay, hopefully I point some things out, but don't get me wrong, there's still plenty of good plays that you made, and hopefully over the course of this replay, I will be able to point all the good and all the not so good out to you. So here on this map, Trap, I particularly do not like going towards the C objective. It's definitely the part of the map that I'm a little bit less experienced on and a little, I guess, lacking in skill with. I really enjoy the A capture zone, and the surrounding area is my preferred place to go, but because he spawned so far to the north, obviously making a beeline towards the C cap is the prudent play. You can see that the enemy team is actually deploying quite heavily towards the A cap, so it appears already early on that one of these types of games is going to take place here on Trap, where you get basically clockwise movement from both of the teams, and then it ends up devolving around the B cap, so that's fine. Now, he's got his scout plane up at the very beginning part of the game, and I really do like that, because being able to get long-range accurate shots at the very start does make it a little bit more difficult for the enemy team to feel safe moving about the map, because they know that there's already going to be shells flying downrange. And that was a fantastic opening salvo that for some reason did not deal more than 7,100 damage. 5 shell hits, 3 pens on that Alaska, no citadels, no big damage. I was very surprised by that, but that's one of the reasons why the scout plane is so nice and handy, because not only does it allow you to reach out and shoot at things that are further away, but it also allows you, more importantly, to see over islands. And you can see for this salvo that Montana that is hiding behind that island would be not within his line of sight, but because he has the spot plane up, he is able to throw shells above the island. And even though it didn't deal any damage, it's still nice to have. Now, he is quite a bit far away here at the start. Obviously, his teammates, the Tirpitz, the Stalingrad, and a few destroyers, and a Montpellier as well, are over near the C cap. So he's kind of taken just this backline approach, and he does have the high explosive shot loaded. Now, me in particular, I would not really shoot HE ever in an Iowa. Maybe under the most dire of circumstances where, you know, it's late game and one of the destroyers is on low health. Obviously, HE is more effective than AP against destroyers these days, but at the same time, those high explosive shells can hit modules and deal no damage, and AP, as long as it penetrates, is going to give you guaranteed damage. So didn't really like that, and obviously when he was ready to shoot, that Alaska managed to run into the Montana, and the Alaska was sitting broadside. So unfortunately, as he shoots his next salvo, he still has high explosive loaded, and unfortunately, if it were to hit the Alaska with a few shells, it's really not going to have a chance to deal much damage. That Alaska is also sitting more or less broadside, as you can see on the last reported position of the minimap. 4 shells hit. I can only imagine what that salvo might have done if it were loaded with armor piercing. So I don't like the use of the high explosive really ever in the Iowa, Montana, American battleships in general. I would definitely stick to the armor piercing at all ranges and really at all angles, because you can still get the good penetration damage. Now, looking at the minimap, there's a Kurfürst and a Zhao on his team that are going to die down at the A cap. It's just a question of if they're going to be able to take anything with them. So right now, things are already looking a little bit on the rough side, because the majority of his team is kind of grouped up here just to the northwest of the C cap. They do manage to get it as the Kiev and the Shimakaze put their ships on the capture zone for their team. But things are not looking too good, because now there is a Friedrich de Grosse that is moving through the B cap that has been captured by the enemy team for a little bit now, and there's also a Jean Bart over in the area too. So that enemy team down south, all they got to do is kill those dudes, and then they're going to be making a beeline to the north. So things are already looking a little bad, and I do like the play that GB is making here, because he's deciding to be he's deciding to put himself in a different position. He doesn't want to be surrounded and be in that cluster of friendly ships because there's no cross angles, there's no good shots that you can work out when everybody is concentrated in one area. You need to be able to maneuver around and put yourself in different positions so you can get those cross shots. So I do like what he's doing here. He's moving back towards the west, and hopefully he'll be able to find some angles to work with here as he progresses over the next couple of minutes. That Freddy is making a very bold mistake by just continuing to push in. Looks like he's going to eat a couple torpedoes. That's exactly what happens. Unfortunately, he does go undetected for a brief minute, but then GB is able to get the next shot off. But it appears that he is moving kind of slow, so unfortunately those shells that are going downrange are going to hit a little bit too far in the front. A couple pens right there, only 4,400 points of damage. So nothing really extraordinary whatsoever here in the opening minutes of this game. We've almost passed 6 minutes, and he's only got 15,000 damage off of 21 shell hits, which is not a very good ratio, to be honest. But you can see that the enemy team still dealing with those friendlies that are down at the A-cap. They're going to be able to kill them. So GB is going to make a maneuver. He's going to start heading to the southwest to try to get, once again, a new angle to work on. Now that Freddy is on about half HP, and he's not doing so hot, so hopefully this will be a potential kill for his team to try to bring the score back a little bit. Nobody's died yet, but this thing is sitting on a knife's edge for his team. Things are not looking very good whatsoever. If you were wondering what he did there, he pressed the M key a couple times, just trying to peek over the corner of the island. You can see that when you're able to do that, you could briefly see over as long as you hit the M key once again. Just trying to get a view over the corner there to see what that Friedrich the Grosse is doing. You can tell that he's moving at slow speed. The carrier is also coming in on him as well, and as he comes around the corner, he is turning in towards GB as he gets the salvo off. Looks like he aimed just a little bit too far in the front. One thing that I will mention, and it's something that I do struggle with as well, so don't think that this is a problem unique to you. When ships are moving at 3/4 half speed, you'd be surprised how quickly they're still able to turn, as long as they have the rudder already turning a little bit to port or starboard before they go and fully commit to the turn. So you saw that Freddy was only coming around the corner at maybe half speed, but he was able to dodge that salvo pretty effectively just by turning the rudder over a little bit more. So that's something that I still struggle with. If you do find yourself having that happening quite often, what I would suggest is aiming higher up into the superstructure just in case, so that at least there's a greater chance of some of the shells going high and hitting those weak parts above the belt armor. Now the next salvo, he's got his spot plane up, throwing one downrange at the Alaska. It looks like the Alaska's trying to turn out. I don't think he aimed high enough. No, unfortunately, that is not to be. Another thing, with the spot plane up, it's a good benefit of the doubt kind of thing. If you're aiming at a ship that is turning away, aim a little bit higher than you think you might need. Once again, it's all about just trying to get a greater chance of shells landing on target. So aim a little bit higher than you think you might need to, and if some of the shells go low, they'll still hit the waterline. Some of the shells go high, they'll hit the superstructure, so it's not too bad. Now at this position, I like this maneuver here, not turning in towards the Freddy and putting himself in a position where that guy's secondary shells will be able to hit him. He's going to get into a little bit of a kiting position right here, perfectly angled towards that German battleship. This is something that I would definitely do. I hate to stray within secondary range of any battleship that has good secondaries, and of course the Friedrich the Grosse is one of the battleships in the game that does have that. Now what you see the Suzumo here, I really don't know why he decided to close the distance, because unfortunately I don't think he's going to be able to get the kill before he gets the ram off, and that's exactly what happens. So what that Izumo did right there, never close the distance with a battleship if you don't absolutely have to. That was a completely bad trade, as that Izumo still had about 1/3, maybe a little bit more hit points to work with, while that Freddy was about ready to kick the bucket. So a very poor maneuver right there by that guy. Do not do that. You should never go for a ram unless it's an absolutely last resort measure, or you know that the game is lost and you're just trying to get some extra damage at the end. So yeah. Now we're almost 10 minutes into the replay, and you're probably still like, is this replay going to go anywhere? Because this is not looking too good. Well, things are about to heat up. The enemy team has lost 4 ships. Crucially, 3 of them have been battleships, whereas GB's friendly team has also lost 4 ships as well, but they still have more battleships on the board. So now with the enemy team not having as many, he can kind of go in with basically a lot of hit points at this stage of the game. and try to bully around some of the cruisers that are over here, because he doesn't have to worry about any battleships that are down here. The Jean Bart is over in the B cap, but does not have shots on him, and the enemy Izumo is all the way over in the F9 grid square. So he's pretty much free to roam around over here and engage these cruisers, and he should be able to pretty easily, considering the American 16-inch AP is pretty sweet. So all he's got to do is stay nice and angled, and he should be A-okay here. Now he's going to get into a somewhat tough engagement. There's the Otago B that is down in H1 that will be coming up to the north, and now he is in a kiting position against this enemy Moskva. Now, of course, the Moskva only has 25 millimeters of bow armor, but because it has that famous Atlantic bow, it is so sharp. The nose is such at a point that it is kind of difficult for shells to find the right spot to penetrate through at times. And as you see right there, 3 pens, only 4,400, 1 shell ricochet. When you're trying to aim at the Moskva and it is sitting bow on, you really want to have the shells dive in right at the waterline, because it's able to overmatch all of the bow. But the part of the bow that isn't nearly as pointed is the part that is just below the waterline. So if you are able to do that, you will be able to get some really good damage, and even potentially citadels on a ship of that nature if you're able to aim down there. Now there is a Kaga coming in to drop the torpedo planes on him. He's already shot down 13 planes thus far in the game, so he doesn't have to worry too much about this tier 8 carrier. The Iowa, even after the rework, still has some pretty good AA. But obviously right now he's got to turn in towards that Moskva. And there is also the Otago B, who is now approaching and is about 10 kilometers off his starboard side. So at this point, while he's angled towards the Moskva, he's going to swing his guns into play against the Otago B. And you can see that that guy is riding the map border, which can be kind of cheeky, and it can sometimes screw up your shells. And right there, unfortunately, two over penetrations right there on that Otago. And at this stage of the game, it's very important that this guy dies really quickly, because when you are in a 2v1 versus 2 cruisers, even if it's an Otago that doesn't have the best DPM, he had to bomb his damage control, and he is using one of his heals. So this Otago's next salvo, he is going to be able to light a fire potentially if the salvo manages to do so. And you already got to think that the Otago B dropped his torpedoes as well. So he still has to turn a little bit to the right, and he is providing a broadside to the enemy Moskva, but at this point, this is the better play. The torpedoes are going to present a much bigger threat than any armor-piercing shot that the Moskva can shoot on his broadside, but fortunately for him, the Moskva continues to shoot high explosives, so you got to make the enemy team pay for their mistakes. And there we go. There comes the Otago torpedoes. Again, it's a very good thing that he turned to the right, because also his damage control was down. And even though flooding is not nearly as dangerous as it used to be, it's very important that you do not already add a flooding on to the fires that are burning. And that Moskva does have 2 of them burning on GB here. However, you can see with his captain's build, he does have on fire prevention, because there are only 2 fires burning, and there's the double one on the superstructure. So he still has quite a few hit points to tank. You can see once again another 8,000 damaging hit on that Moskva while he was bow in. And now what he's going to do is make the right play here. You got to close the distance to a ship like that. Soviet cruisers and the Soviet battleships in particular have very gettable and easy to reach citadels. So if you are in close range combat, you really do want to try to rush them and get around to their side, because it's going to make it very easy to be able to puncture that citadel. And right there, once again, the Moskva does go bow on, but because the armor-piercing shells have such good pen and he knows where to aim on the bow, he was able to get some more of those penetrations and deal 13,000 points of damage, which is absolutely fantastic. So that Moskva's down to about a third hit points. He's very lucky that he doesn't eat a flooding right there near the bow. Only takes 2,500 points of damage, so he still has quite a bit to work with. He's got his next heal up. The next salvo from his forward guns going down range. You can see 1 non-pen, 1 ricochet. He aimed a little bit too far to the side on the Moskva. I would have loved to see another shot right at the bow, as that guy was able to tank the majority of his salvo. Unfortunately, the Kaga gets a really good drop-off with his final squadron of torpedo bombers in that wave, so unfortunately, he's down to about 20,000 hit points, and he still is burning with that Moskva. Some pretty rough dispersion as well, but the shells still land on target. That Moskva is also getting spammed by the friendly AL Montpellier on his team, so it's a very good thing that his teammate was finally able to get in range and help him out here. So that's all fine and dandy. The Moskva definitely needs to die. For some reason, though, he decides to switch his focus to the enemy Kaga. Now, in this situation, with only 13,000 hit points remaining, I really would have liked to see that salvo go towards the Moskva, even though the big damage comes on the Kaga. That Moskva is the biggest threat to you right now, and he's at an amount of hit points that is very, very low. So, even though the Montpellier is getting some good shots on him, GB, I really would have liked to see that last salvo go towards the Moskva, because again, you're down to 10,000 hit points, and even though you have your heal ready to go, or your repair ready to go, you know, it's still a very dangerous situation with that Moskva being able to shoot, because that Montpellier has taken some time to be able to get this kill. As you go down to 6,500 hit points, that next salvo really needs to come in. You also get a little lucky right there that Kaga does not manage to kill you, as that dive bomber drop was a little less than satisfactory. So you could have saved a lot of hit points by shooting at that Moskva a couple salvos ago. Sure, you did kill the carrier, which is fine and dandy, but it really would have been nice to see that salvo go at the Moskva, because he probably would have died at least a minute before he did, if not more, and you would have more hit points to work with. So now you're kind of in a danger situation here. You only have 5,000 hit points, and that Des Moines is spamming you. These planes really need to go down. However, in this situation, another excellent use of the spotting aircraft allows you to shoot over the corner of the island, which is great. The shell's fallen on the target, 16,200 damage. That Des Moines takes about half of his remaining hit points worth. So an excellent shot right there. And like I said, just really good scout plane usage in this game, being able to peek over islands. And there are plenty of them here on this map that do kind of block line of sight from time to time. So an excellent usage right there. His last heal got him back to 17,800 hit points. So while he doesn't have any heals left, this is still a decent amount, as long as the first salvo, if he does manage to engage the Des Moines again, manages to kill him off, because in the amount of time that it would take for his next reload to come back, that Des Moines would be able to get him down to a near kill status. So this next salvo is going to be very, very important, but never mind, the Des Moines is coming around the corner broadside, because I guess the Iowa doesn't exist anymore. So GB manages to get his third confirmed kill of the game, as he's now sitting here on the B capture point. There's only one enemy ship left. It's 4 versus 1. Their team is down by so many points because the enemy team was able to get such a large lead via the points. So at this stage of the game, that Shimakaze has to die for GB's team to have any chance of winning this one. And the Shima was last detected in the Echo 7 grid square, so he is, I would imagine, close by. I don't remember how long ago that last reported position was, but right now he is not spotted. So at this point, never mind. The Shimakaze gets detected shooting at the friendly Iowa for some reason. I'm not 100% sure about that, but now GB is getting the rear turret swung into play as well, and he's going to toss a salvo downrange at Schwo, who's at 14.4 kilometers. The salvo going downrange is a little bit too far forward and a little bit short on that destroyer, so unfortunately that salvo was off. And then right here, I really don't understand why turning out. There's only 2 minutes and 17 seconds left. You really, really need to close the distance to that dude, because there's hardly any time left, and this is a risk that I absolutely would have taken. Sure, only takes 2 Shimakaze torpedoes to be able to hit at this point to kill him, but I really would have liked to see him go right making for a beeline at that smoke screen. Now, he does load high explosive again. Not the biggest fan, but that is not necessarily a bad play. He blind fires into the smoke. Unfortunately, the salvo misses, so now we're down to 1 minute and 46 seconds left. However, the Montpellier does manage to get within radar range of that Shimakaze, who's only down to 1,200 hit points. So at this point, it's pretty much a done deal. Even though there's only 1.5 minutes left, all they need to do is get the kill and they should be okay. He gets another long-range salvo going at the Shimakaze. Still has the high explosive loaded. One of the shells is quite a bit offline to the left, falls down on the target. He gets the kill, and that ends the game here on Trap. Alrighty guys, taking a look now at the post-battle results. 557,000 credits received and 11,012 total experience earned. I'd imagine that this was the first win of the day. He picked up Fireproof and Dreadnought, dealing 146,000 points of damage off of 70 shell hits. He shot down 46 aircraft, had 4 ships destroyed, 5 citadels, and 1 solo base capture. Taking a look at the team score, 2,627 base XP. Fantastic performance. I'd also like to shout out to Unhappy360 at Montpellier, doing some work with 2 kills and 2,366 base XP. So between the two of them, certainly one of the reasons why they were able to win this game. Taking a look at the detailed report, virtually all the damage dealt with the armor-piercing shot, and of course the one shell from the high explosive that went offline managed to hit the Shimakaze. Also a decent amount of damage tanked at 116,000. So GB, definitely some things that I would improve on in terms of target selection, especially later on in the game. I really wanted you to see that those shells going downrange at the Moskva instead of the aircraft carrier. The carrier was going to die. It was just a matter of time. Get the kill on the ship that is dealing damage to you directly before you worry about a ship that is virtually defenseless against the Iowa. But also great spotter plane usage. I liked you moving around the map and trying to find different angles to work with. And at the end of the game, you were able to clutch it with the kill on the Shimakaze. So overall, pretty good. Definitely some things to work on. Hopefully I was able to point out what I feel that you can work on in this replay, and hopefully it helps you out with your battleship gameplay. So thanks again for sending this in. Thanks for your patience. I know you sent this in a couple weeks ago, but hopefully you enjoyed the replay. So with that being said, this is Snek for BIA World of Warships signing off. Guys and gals, as always, have a great day.